Hi everyone, this is Robin. It has been a while. I am now 62 weeks on testosterone, and since the last time I told you that I was going to have surgery, bottom surgery, but things happened and I canceled it. The reason was that the doctor, the last time I went, he said to me like, "Oh, um, did you have a checkup with your legs?" Because they have to kind of measure it in order to see if they can use the skin of the legs. Uh, but the time before, he told me, "Oh, we'll check that next time." So apparently, I had to go somewhere else, and they didn't tell me. And I was getting really sick about this wrong information that I kept having. And so he looked at it himself, and then he said, "Oh, you kind of have a fat layer, which will make the penis quite thick. Um, so yeah, we'll have to do it out of the arm." And I understood that it was not possible out of the leg, but he meant a piece of the arm for the inner wrap, and then the leg for the outside of the penis. Um, and so yeah, we were sitting down, and he said, "Oh, if you're gonna take it out of your leg, it's gonna cost you 2,000 euros more, which is, I think, I don't know, 2,300 US dollars." And I was a bit shocked because they never told me that before, although I have been telling them from the start that I wanted it that way. So yeah, out of the blue, it's gonna cost me 2,000 euros more, and I was like, okay, you could have told me that before. So I was a bit dazzled, and he kept going on, and I showed him. Well, actually, he didn't ask anything about my chest, and the time before he said, "Oh, I might have to fill it up." So this time I asked him, I said, "How are you planning to fill it up?" And he said, "Well, with fat." And I said, "Is that gonna give me a smooth uh, result?" And he said, "Well, I cannot um, guarantee it." Um, and so I said, "Well, if you put fat in it, then I can never, if I pump it up, if I do exercises, I can never have a pumped up chest." And so for the first time in this, after my surgery, he kind of said, "Oh, come up close." And he looked at it, and he kind of grabbed the skin and looked at it, and he said, "Well," he said, "I might have to take some skin out of it because you have a bit of excessive skin." And this was the first time that he actually mentioned it. um, and he did mention about replacing the nipples, which in my opinion was kind of saying that indeed it wasn't done properly. And not so many words, but that's how I interpreted it. So um, he said, "Oh, but normally they do the bottom surgery together with the revision of your chest, but because they had to take excessive skin, and if they work with the leg, it was going to be too much." So he said, "Oh, we'll have to do it in 2 times." um, which also meant that after the 3 weeks that I had to spend after the bottom surgery, I had to go again after that. And again, I asked him, "Is the revision included in the price that you told me?" And he said yes. So afterwards, I had to go to his assistant, which he's a guy who handles all the money affairs and the appointments and all that. And so he's like, "Oh, so you're gonna do it?" And because it was a month before. And I said, "Well," I said, "I'm a little bit dazzled about the increase of price." And apparently, the 2,000 euros more was if you take it out of the leg. If you take it out of the arm, you didn't have to um, pay more than the original price. So that meant that having a visible scar on your arm would cost me 2,000 euros less. So what do you decide at that point? Because these guys just seem to think that you have a tree back in the garden and you can just take off the money like that, you know. And I also mentioned, he said to me, oh, maybe you have to think about it and just let me know. And he said, and I said to him, I said, well, what about the operation, the revision? Because the doctor wants to do it separately, but it's included in the price. And he's like, no, it's not included in the price. And I said, wow, the surgeon told me it's included in the price. And he said, no, that's not the case. You still have to pay a small amount. And I was getting really a bit upset because it was not the first time that this guy told me that I have to pay more. Um, and he's like, oh, if you don't have to pay for it, you could keep asking revisions. Like, yeah, that's what we want. We want to keep going to the hospital and have ourselves cut up. Yeah, sure. So I told him, I said, look, I know other transgenders who had revisions who didn't have to pay for it. And he's like, oh, that's not possible. And he's like, I'm not telling that you're lying. And I'm like, whatever. What are you saying? So I was really getting emotional and upset, and I was like, what is this? They are calling themselves a specialized team, and they give you this contradictional feedback and information of how much it's going to cost, and I was like, what the fuck, And I told him, I said, the doctor made a mistake with the nipples, with the placement of the nipples, and I said, and I have to pay for the revision. I said, that's not correct. And he's like, oh, but think about it, and blah blah blah. And so I started crying. I just couldn't help myself. I was so, because, oh yeah, so the small amount that he was talking about, I said, how much is that small amount? And he said, oh, about 1,200 euros plus the cost of your stay in the hospital. So yeah, that's what, $1,500 on top of it again. And I thought to myself, well, if like from the start, I asked what the price was, and you kind of go with that. You have that as your guideline. Okay, that's how much I'm gonna have to save, whatever. And I asked a million times to the doctor, to the psychiatrist, is it included? Is everything included in that, except for the stay in the hospital? Yes, everything is included, revisions as well, and so on. And so this guy, his name is Jan, uh, just keeps telling me different things, and I'm like, what is going on with the communication? I mean, I found out because I asked him, right? Because otherwise I would have just thought, okay, this is what I have to pay, go to the hospital, get the surgery, and then after I get the bill, or actually you have to pay the bill beforehand, so I would have known that, but I would have find out when I went to get the surgery. And obviously, the surgeon is the guy that I am in contact with. He has to be the one who tells me how much it's all going to cost, right? I mean, if he doesn't know it, then something is wrong. Um, and again, they call themselves specialized team. I'm not saying they're bad doctors. I'm not saying, they're crap, because this surgeon has uh, 25 years of experience with transgenders, so he must be doing something right. It's just the whole connection of all the teams. I just don't call it a team. It seems detached from each other, and somehow I just feel like I'm in a factory or something. I don't know. I just have this bad feeling, and I just didn't trust them anymore. And so I went home, and I thought about it, and I said, I'm not going to do it, because if I have the uh, bottom surgery, and after that, because most of the time you need revisions with a bottom surgery, and things go wrong. What does that mean? Like, the revisions are not included. Will I have to pay more after that? Well, you're in a situation that you can't back out. You can't say, hey, wait, you didn't tell me it's going to cost me that much, then never mind, don't do it. Of course not. Once you take the step, you got to go all the way. So it feels like it's screwing you over, and I don't know if I see it, right, or if I don't know how to see it, but I just said, look, I'm not going to do it. I Actually, I just want it in writing. What is it gonna cost me? What is included? What is not included? And then take it from there. The only problem here is I don't think they give a shit because they are the only hospital in Belgium that do it. So I have nowhere else to go if I want to have the bottom surgery. I could go abroad to England or wherever, but I don't think that healthcare would pay a part of that, or it will cost me a lot more because that might be one of their points saying, oh, well, it's going to cost you more, when you go abroad. But this is all beside the point. It's if you tell me that it's going to cost that much, then don't tell me afterwards it's going to cost me more. And again, I asked the surgeon several times, is the revision included? And he said yes, and it should be because he made a mistake. And he decided not to do the dog ears from the start and just do them in the revision. Anyway, so what happened is I came home and I wrote an email to the psychiatrist and telling him the whole story, and he wrote me back saying, I don't really know what to do with this. And I'm like, okay, um, but I will, um, you know, discuss it in the next meeting. Meanwhile, I had to go to the endocrinologist, and he, I told him the story as well, and he told me maybe you should just write an email to the surgeon himself, and just polite email and tell him how you feel and all that. And I thought to myself, well, maybe that's the way for them to get out of it. But maybe I should. But it took me some time to start the email, and eventually I did write. Um, well, I made a draft of an email stating all the points and the disappointments and what happened. And I had it, I had it in my drafts, and a guy that I know who's transgender, he asked me to read it. So I copied it out of my drafts, and I wanted to go out of my drafts to create a new email. And all of a sudden, I get this message: "Your mail has been sent." And I was like, "Oh fuck no!" Because my girlfriend had read it, and actually it wasn't that bad, but it was a bit too detailed and it was a bit too much. So it was a raw draft. It was a raw email. So he got that one, and I was like, oh fuck, but I guess in a way it is fate that decided to send it, because I don't know if I would have the guts to send it, because obviously you kind of, I try not to attack him, but I think he might see it as an attack, so you're attacking a surgeon, and I think they're kind of sensitive to that. So um, we are now 14 days later, and I haven't heard anything from him. So I've mailed to the psychiatrist saying, okay, I haven't heard from him. Have you mentioned it in the meeting? He said the meeting was cancelled and they'll have another meeting, and so on. So, yeah, it's tricky. I don't know what's gonna happen. Maybe I should have kept my mouth shut and do the whole thing, but I've heard from these gender sites that they've heard similar stories. So if I'm the one that's gotta try to open their eyes and tell them, look, it's hard enough for us. You have to be clear about things. We need that. It is a physical, mental, and financial hard time for us, and a long time to go through. So yeah, we need some clearance, I guess. So yeah, that's about it. It's too dark now to show the results of what I was trying to say, because I get a lot of comments saying, oh, but it looks really good, and yeah, the nipples are great. I don't complain about the nipples, but I just, if you see the videos of Dr. Garamone, he always put the nipple on in the pectoralis, like I mentioned before, and you just watch every guy you see on television, whether he has big boobs or he has a six pack, the nipple will be in the pectoralis, and it's not the case with me. So next time I'm going to draw where my pectoralis is, so I can show you what I mean, because maybe it's not clear for everybody out there uh, what I mean. um, a friend of mine said, you know, maybe you shouldn't have a revision and all, because if they're gonna take out the nipples again and replace them, things might go wrong, and it might even get worse than it was before. So yeah, I don't know what to do about that. We'll see what happens. I'll keep you posted, and yeah, in the next video I'll show you the results. Thanks. See ya.